Hey guys, what's up? Today we are talking to Dean DeLisle, Chief Revenue Officer of S2A Modular, CEO of Bahia Villages, CEO of Lux Mods, the author of First, the Street Guide to Digital Business Influence, owner of Forward Progress, the creator of Social Jack, and my dad, Dean DeLisle.
Hey, what's happening?
Hey, what's up? How are you?
Good.
Great to have you on, Dean.
Yeah, thank you. I love the show. I'm a big fan. I listen to it all the time, and was honored when you guys asked me to be on. So thank you for having me on.
Oh yeah, no problem.
And the thing is, with that Bahia Villages, I'm technically not the CEO. I am a partner of Bahia Villages, but it did sound like I was a CEO of a lot of things. So
yeah, it did. We said CEO a lot. I was typing it out earlier, and I was like, wow. I was like, he's busy, very busy.
Well, I have a lot of good people that work with me, so it makes me look good.
So we're going to actually go into first of all, the book. The book was amazing. We've all been reading it. So if you cut to all of our cameras, Tyler doesn't have his.
Mine's over there. I'm sorry. I'm okay, there.
It's fine.
There we go. So there's the book.
Is that does everybody have their personalized signed copies?
Yep.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yep. Let's make sure we have our own. Yep. Mine's signed by Dad.
Oh, mine too.
I adopted all of you, just so you know.
You know what, Dean? I am thankful for that signature because not only did it authenticate my book, but it also showed me that you have worse handwriting than I do.
Yes, I played a doctor on TV and stayed at a Holiday Inn Express.
So we've all been reading your book from different points.
That's true.
I read while you were in the hospital. So a little bit of backstory. We actually had you scheduled to come in, and the week that you were going to come in was you were in the hospital, and you texted me the day you had been in the hospital for a couple days, and you texted me the day of, and you were like, "Hey, I don't think I'm going to make it to the interview."
Yeah, I just got off life support. I think I'm going to have to postpone.
I think that's a reasonable.
Plus, I look like shit in a hospital gown. I don't know if you guys have ever had one of those on, but they are not flattering, man. I don't care what kind of shape you're in. There's nothing to say. There's no flattering. I think they put those on there on you on purpose so you want to get out of there because it's just awful wearing those things.
Yeah, you're like, there's always a draft. It's too breezy, too flowy.
Yeah, no matter which angle, whether you wear it with the slit on the back or on the front, there's no way of getting around the hospital in any fashion to do anything. Like you go to the snack machine, it's just like you look like a molester. It's crazy.
and that breeze will come right through too, and you're like,
oh yeah, well that's okay because it's those cotton sheets are a little warm, but it's like I don't know.
Yeah. So and then
my thing is, don't get in the hospital. Just stay out of the hospitals. They're all messed up too, man. I don't even want to get started on the whole medical system. Jeez.
Yeah, it was definitely it was a crazy experience for that whole week that you were in there to just basically see it, because I mean we haven't really had to be in a hospital situation like that for a while. But yeah, it was definitely crazy. I'm glad you're okay now. And the doctors were actually, very helpful. But I think we talked about this a little bit on the other podcast. But I did. I talked a little bit
on
about
Jackson Street.
Yeah. So that one, we talked a little bit. I dropped the name of the hospital, but I won't do that here.
Actually, they actually did an amazing job. So I mean, come on, 1 minute I'm on one knee in the airport at Midway, not able to breathe, and then I wake up on life support. So it was a whole surreal experience for sure.
Oh, I bet. I mean, I've obviously never been in that situation, but I can only imagine that that's not a fun situation to wake up and be like, where? Well, actually, that's not true. I have woken up and been like, where am I? But not in a hospital.
Wait, so we're all Chicago people. So you have to imagine I'm the last thing I recall is I'm grabbing the vest of this nice man that's helping me in the airport, and he's on his radio. And I'm like, where the fuck are the paramedics? We can cuss on this show, right?
Yeah. Say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, so I'm holding the guy like right here. Where are the paramedics? You know, it was like, you know, Adrian, right? So I'm like that. And then I wake up and I've got a tube down my throat. I'm on life support and I got my wrists are chained to the bed. And I look up and there's 3 Chicago cops outside my window of my isolated ICU room. And all I thought is, oh my God, I killed the guy in the airport. That's all that I had. I had no family around me, nobody that I knew, you know, so it was like being in a movie. It was pretty surreal, actually.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, I remember like, cause like we were on the other side of that, like we were sitting there for about 5 hours before they let us go in and see him. Wow. Like just like the Suicide Squad of people that were in that waiting room.
It was in Inglewood, so let's just set some context, right? All of us from Chicago know Inglewood is the battleground where they bring everybody that nobody else will take.
Yeah, and it was also the closest one to Midway.
Yeah, unfortunately, I won both those lottery tickets.
There was a lady in there at the exact same time while we're waiting to go see him, and she was in a wheelchair and had like a head wound, like an open head, like it was bandaged, but like you could tell shit was not slowing down on bleeding, like that was not clotting anytime soon, and like the waiting room, like there was like blood all over her legs, like it was everywhere, like so you could tell it came from her head because that's what was bandaged, and like it was all over her, and I don't even know, like that, like why everyone was just like, yeah, she's good, she's fine, like we'll put her in the waiting room. She's actually been like let go. She has a lot more blood to lose. Yeah, she's fine.
So anyway, This has nothing to do with the book, but at least since you brought up the hospital, I figured I would say, boy, that was just really a crazy ass experience. So,
well, I mean, now maybe does that motivate you at all to write another one? Because
I'm writing another book now, but it has me writing from a different perspective. So they said the one thing that saved my life, and Sonny, I thought about you on this, is that they said if you weren't in the gym 6 days a week, you literally would not have survived this occurrence because what the trauma that I went through was so severe that my body stepped up and battled its way through it. You know, like your body does. Your body responds to the best of its ability based on your physical condition. So as much as I'm in decent shape, I could be in way better shape. So I'm motivated to take it to a whole new level, and I'm motivated to motivate all my other friends to take it to a whole new level. And I think we all should do that, just because, we only have one of these temples that we live in, right? So we have to, and then this is what's going to carry us to whatever destination we choose to take it to. So if we do a little better job, and, I'm no stranger to going out and having a good time. I work 70 plus hours a week with all those CEO positions that Jackson rattled off. And I've never been one to slow down. I've never been one to take a break, slow down. I build companies. I run hard and I play hard. And there's some lesson in there to say, well, now on the Saturdays, I go to the spa and I do salt caves and saunas and massages. I don't just go to the gym in beast mode. I get on the massage table and, I slow down, and so that was a message and a wake up to me that there is such a thing as balance, and, you can't go, 1040 every single second of the day. So, even though I survive 59 years doing it this way, I'm not going to survive another 50 doing it. So I figure there's a lot of lessons in there. So
I feel like that's like a lesson I'm trying to teach myself, is I need to get out of the headspace of just like stop worrying about things I can't control, and then just like there needs to be breaks where you're not thinking about the podcast or school or work, etc. Just thinking about shit that kind of doesn't matter, because in a way it's a little bit healthy to get it off of your mind too.
Right.
And it's harder, or easier said than done, I would say.
Well, I think in today's world it's hard too, because we have a lot of media in our face, all over the place, and not just media, not just social media, but news and noise and everything else, and stuff all around us, and people are angry, and the world's pissed off, and this and that and everything else. And I think it's our personal responsibility to take care of ourselves around that scenario, so we have a choice to absorb all that negativity and bad things that we see and everything else, or we have a choice to say, well, like you said, I like what you said, because I've sort of lived that way, on the outside of, well, you know what, do I care who's in the presidency? Absolutely. Can I do anything about what they're doing, right or wrong? Absolutely not. It's already, those choices have been made. I can't climb to the hill and make it change. I can make some changes around my own life. I can make some changes around my own companies, but I can't change all the stuff that's bad in the world. I can pick and choose the things around me to change that can affect the world in a positive way. So that's what I choose to do. I use my companies and what power I do have to help make the world a better place, and now also to make myself and the people around me better. So as long as I can live that way and help others live that way, I think that's a positive spin. So the new book will talk about those things, about that experience and how it changed me to think differently about the way I take care of myself, take care of others, and just think about things differently.
Yeah, well, and I would say that the experience from like watching it from my side of things, I definitely, like, with watching you go through it, I was not my first thought, but like probably like my fifth thought was, fuck, I should probably start working out again, and like eating better, because like, I was eating just like ramen because it was quick and easy for like months. I was just like, this is easy, this is quick. And then this happened. I was like, that is a lot of sodium that I do intake, so I should probably get back on track with that.
I was going to ask you about that. Is ramen like even in a food group?
No.
Yeah, like it's in the shit your
same,
pants food group. Like
the
it just
food
makes
group salt is in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because everybody talks to me. Oh, I got this new ramen place, and I'm like, when did ramen places happen? I thought ramen was a bag of stale noodles that had a packet that was like that could last longer than cockroaches in a nuclear war. And then all of a sudden, there's like restaurants that are ramen restaurants. I mean, what the hell's up with that?
well, it's I think Vietnamese, I want to say, or Korean.
Ramen?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a lot of like Asian culture.
Yeah, a lot of Asian cultures have it, but I mean, like it's like going to a Chinese restaurant.
I think it was made by Sam Walton or somebody like that. I don't think it has anything to do with anything international. Quite honest.
Well, it's actually
like French fries are not French and pizza's not Italian. Ramen's not Asian. I disagree with that. I don't even know. I'm just throwing it out.
I actually was like watching an interview with one of the like chefs from like Master Chef or something like that, but he was saying that he makes ramen all the time, but he uses the noodles that come in the bag. He just doesn't use their seasoning. He's like, I just do it all myself. Like the seasoning, he's like, the noodles are actually pretty good quality. And I was like, oh, that's kind of good to know that like the noodles aren't the part that's going to kill you. It's that little bag of just salt that they give you. So like, just dump this all over it. Yeah, you're going to love it.
Well, see, Sonny, there's a lesson for me. See, what I do is I just take the bag of the stuff and I put it in hot water and I drink the broth and I throw away the noodles. So maybe I just learned something new. Maybe I should be doing it the other way.
Well, speaking of restaurants, how about this segue? So your first job was at a restaurant, and you and I have this in common. Our first jobs were at 13, and we got paid under the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's so. What type of restaurant was it?
So I didn't work in a restaurant. I worked in a family-owned grocery store, and okay. I stocked shelves and took out. I almost said garbages. Well, that too, but groceries. Like I would help carry groceries out the cars and stuff, and we get tips and whatnot. But I didn't want the job, or I didn't know I was getting the job. My dad took me home from school in 7th grade and said we have to stop at the grocery store to get some things. And then next thing I know, the manager was like, I heard you're looking for some work. And I was like, yes, sir. and then I was actually able to bike and walk to work, but you weren't. Your parents had to take you. So I'm sure they were like, oh, geez, what the hell? How often did you work there?
Well, actually, no. So what started was my parents were school teachers and didn't make a lot of money, and they it was my dad's second marriage, and so we didn't make a lot of money. So, but their treat was every Saturday night we went to this fine dine steakhouse. It was one of the nicest steakhouses in town, which was in Hammond, Indiana, called the Region, for you people out there that don't know that. So anyway, that was our treat. Now, one thing was they always had, and this is where I got this from. For me, when I go to a restaurant, I like have my table or my booth and my waitress. You have your regular servers. So Jackson, we had that when the Parthenon was open at Greektown. Yeah. So we always had our table. We had George, the waiter. Everybody knew us. They knew what we wanted. Before we sat down, our drinks were made. It was just that kind of place. So anyway, we'd sit there, and my sister and I would sit there with my parents while they're getting a little sauced up, having a celebration for their Saturday meal. We too young to drink. But I would have an eye shot of the owner because his office was right next to our booth. And I could watch him coming from the bar, and he would always, on every hour, he'd come around and he'd have wads of cash. And we didn't have a lot of money. So I associated restaurants with, wow, if you're working restaurants, you're going to have a lot of cash. So at an early age, I watched this year after year. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, man, I want to work in a restaurant. I mean, even when I was at my grandparents' house, I'd walk around and pretend to be the waiter, and just pretend like I was practicing to be the restaurant guy. So then I can remember it to this day. He was a big dude, and my dad's like, well, go ask him for a job. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. So I was like, okay. So my dad actually pushed me into that. And so I stood up, and I remember my palms were sweaty because he's this big dude and I'm 13 years old. So I go walking up to him, and he's coming in. He looks down. He goes, yes, young man. And I was like, just my mouth was dry. I'm trying to get the words out. And I'm like, I'd really like to have a job. That's what I said. And then it was like the jukebox stopped and all the people stopped chewing and everyone just looking at me, and I'm just like, fuck, what's going to happen now? And then he looked down, he goes, he goes, how old are you? I go, old enough to have a job. He goes, you look old enough to have a job. He goes, why don't you come in on Saturday and we'll talk about it? So I was like, Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. I was like, okay. And so then I went back to the table, checked my shorts, and everything was cool. So then my parents are just like, well, what happened? He goes, well, he wants me to come in Saturday. I said, well, my mom's like, well, that sounds like an interview. I was like, what's that? Like, am I going to get interrogated? What is all that about? The only thing I had before that was a paper route, So now all of a sudden I'm like, next thing I know, I find myself working in this fine dine restaurant. All the business guys, all the anybody that was anybody in town came there, the mayor, people like that, politicians. And it was so cool that the whole screen just blacked out on Sunny. So
yeah, don't sit still for that line. Gosh.
So anyway, it was just surreal because not only did I have that gig, and I really accelerated at it because I was highly social. I loved just the people and everything about it. But it was the fact that whenever I wanted a side job or another gig, I did anything I wanted to. Like once I found out the power of connecting to all the people in that place, it just changed my life because I learned how to network at a very early age. I also learned how to drink scotch at a very early age, but it's a whole other story. But they were just like they were family to me, and so it was a cool feeling. And I'm telling you, and one of the things to revert back to is living in a a sort of a lower middle class neighborhood in Hammond that we did. I delivered newspapers. At the end of my block, there was a country club, and I would finish my route and I would sit there in the morning. It'd be like 5 or 6 in the morning. I'm sitting there on my bike, little banana seat, watching all these cool cars going in and out and the golfers teeing off. And I'm just like, man, someday I'm going to get in that country club. And that was just sort of a vision for me of getting out of, a little bit of my parents not having money all the time and just being in that scenario. So then all of a sudden I look up and Mr. Matson at the time, Freddie, who was Freddie Steakhouse, I look up and he's got this big picture of a boat and it says, Mr. Martini on it. And that was him. So then next thing I know, I'm working. And every Saturday night, the waiters and the cooks and some of the bus boys, we'd all go out for pizza, and I'd stay out till 3 a.m. and, have a little alcohol, and then we'd get rides home. And it was sort of cool because I was in that club of adulting at an early age and growing into it. Right. So then all of a sudden I'm like, I would always help him prepare and load up his truck with stuff because all the cool people would leave the restaurant on a Saturday night and they'd go straight to the yacht club on Mr. Martini and then party into Sunday and go out boating. So I'm like, I'm getting in that fucking yacht club somehow. So I'm carrying all this shit out to the truck one day, and I go, hey, Mr. Matson, do you need someone to help you when you get there to like clean up the boat and load stuff up for you and stuff like that? He goes, kid, that's a great idea. He goes, yeah, when we head out, jump in the truck with me and we'll go a little early and we'll go and have you help me out. So next thing I know, I'm in the yacht, and he goes, and bring a change of clothes. So I was like, yes. Yeah. So next thing I know, I'm like going to hanging out on Mr. Martini. I'm like hanging out with hot looking bartendresses and waitresses that are way older than me. And I'm the cool kid on the block, and I wasn't going, as much for the pizza anymore, but I got into the sort of the yacht club, and I was at the yacht club, and that was a surreal lesson. The first step was, and then the second was like, man, I learned if you just ask, you can get, right? So asking gets you things, right? So and a lot of people, I think, go through life, whether it's at their first job or their next job or today, and they just forget that people are willing to give you a shot or a chance if you're just willing to ask. And that's a long way to that lesson, but that's what I wrote about in the book. It's like the power of asking is so great and so underutilized, and it's so simple.
Well, a lot of like what I got from the book too is it's not just about asking, but it's about developing that relationship with that person and getting to know them as a human instead of just going up to them randomly and just being like, hey, will you do this for me?
Right.
Because I think, I mean, there's obviously like a huge difference between those two scenarios.
Well, I was a hard worker, and I think they respected that about me. And I'm sure I was somewhat likable, so to be around. So there was an element of human connection there, to your point too. And then, but yeah, it was it was pivotal for my entire life of everything that happened, who I became. And it's funny to think about that, being a busboy. It sort of made you who you were, but it was a grind of a job, and it was a rewarding job because all the waitresses fought over me, and they were the best waitresses who made the most money, that paid the most tips. So then I made more money than all the other guys, so cool.
Well, and from there, you actually had a similar way that you got to your next job opportunity after that. Was using that ask.
That was super cool, man. Well, so one of the guys coming in was the new president of Merrill Lynch in Chicago, and if you're a Northwest Indiana guy, and you get old enough, you're driving around, you can see the skyline of the city of Chicago. And I was a beach bum. I hung out at the beach and the yacht club a lot. So I I could see the Chicago skyline, and I go, that's where I need to be. I need to get to the city. That's all I knew. I need to get to the big city. That was my thing. And so all of a sudden I'm like, wow, the CEO of Merrill Lynch, he's Chicago. Maybe this is the guy. And I just became, I took care of his table. He came into my dining room. I actually switched dining rooms because of him. So I actually would always work the bar area and the networking area with all those guys. But anytime it was his night, I would try to get into his room and wait on his table. Even if I didn't have that room, I would go in and clear his table and sweep through and help at his table. And I got to know him. So he would have me start helping him cater parties. And I'm watching these limousines pull up, and he had one of the bigger houses in Hammond, and limousines are coming in from Chicago with all these guys, and I'm helping him cater and serve cocktails, and just got to know him. And then one night it's like 3 a.m. We're totally blitzed. I think we were probably smoking a joint, maybe other things at about 3 a.m. with, Merrill Lynch. I'll let you use your imagination. So anyway, we're sitting in a stereo room, and you guys are probably too young to remember some of the old commercials, but they had reel-to-reel stereo where they would have these reels of tapes where they would play music, and then the speakers were ginormous. I mean, we all had big speakers that were the size of refrigerators, and the bigger the speaker, the better the sound at the time. So anyway, we're sitting in a stereo room. It's a wall full of stereo equipment. Why he needed a wall full, I don't know. Probably because he could have. And 2 big chairs, and we're just looking at each other, and we had to be wasted, man. And I look over and I go, Mr. Bradley, what would it take for me to work downtown at the Board of Trade on all those computers with you guys? That seems super cool. He looks at me, squinty eyes. Dean, I like you. You're a hard worker. You can start in 2 weeks. I looked at him and I go, what the fuck? Are you shitting me? And then I woke up the next day between 2 hookers. No, that's not true. So anyway, I woke up the next day and I'm just like, was that real? And then all of a sudden, because he lived right next door to one of my best friends. So then, I would always crash at their house. He comes in, they're having breakfast, and he pops in for coffee, and we're sitting around the table, and he's like, Dean, don't forget, you're starting in 2 weeks. And I'm going, fuck yeah, I am. And I'm scared because I don't even know what that means. Like, start what? I'm a busboy. And now all of a sudden I've been going to Purdue for computers, and we're on punch cards, which you guys probably don't even know what those are. So that was like, before cartridges and everything else, right? So now all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, but I did love hacking on computers at the university. So anyway, it's like, he's telling me this, and I'm just like, wow. And I'm like excited and scared all at the same time. And then I'm like, oh shit, I have to give 2 weeks notice at the place I've worked my entire life to my family and tell them I'm leaving in 2 weeks. And I've been there my whole life.
How long did you actually work there?
Well, 13 to the age of 20.
Okay. Yeah. I left at 19. So.
Yeah. And so I and then all of a sudden I'm down at the Board of Trade. I'm in IBM school. I'm on millions of dollars worth of computers on the midnight shift. But it was pretty cool because I went from making $1.25 plus tips to making $35 an hour, which is a little bit of a jump. So
to say the least.
Right. So that was pretty cool. So now all of a sudden I'm like, I'm in Chicago, like that. Like it was like the wizard showed up and snapped their fingers, snapped a wand and goes, you're going to Chicago. And then I was like, I had to buy clothes. There was like all kinds of decisions, life decisions, like, oh my gosh, I have to commute, and so, but it was, but it was that ask, Jackson, you're right. It was that power of that, just making the choice in that moment to ask. And I was hungry because I started seeing my buddies either go to the steel mill, go to college, go to Chicago. So I was like, I'm in college. I was sort of bored with the restaurant thing after I started to learn that I would have to work for 20 years as a manager to be able to afford to have my own restaurant, as I calculated. So I was like, that's the long road. That wasn't what I had in mind. And I'm like, well, maybe my life is to go make a lot of money in the tech space and computers and then buy a restaurant, which I never did. But it was like, that was that fork in the road where you make a choice to go right or left, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Our cameras just keep going black.
Yeah,
these are our brand new cameras too that we're trying to figure out.
That's what happens when you buy new things. You got to test them, and you know it's technology. You're going to have to shake them out.
I know it never works out. In the car.
Perfect. Where are your keys? Here, just spin this one.
Yeah, just use Tyler's.
Put it on both of you.
That's what.
But I like Tyler. I miss Tyler.
I miss you too.
I feel like I'm floating.
You're flying.
Are both cameras black?
Yeah, they both died.
Damn. So that was literally 30 minutes of
30
recording.
minutes.
All right. Well, we're not going to take those to Joe's.
Nope.
We're going to need to figure out those batteries too.
Yeah, I already found some.
Or you get your old cameras.
Yeah.
Oh, we get the 2 camera shot here. Or the 2 guys shot. That's okay.
Yeah, I like this shot. I've always liked this shot.
Yeah, I do too.
Why do you hate this shot?
It's like the ESPN shot, man.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Almost. There you go. Yeah, looks good.
Jackson, what's in those green bottles on your desk? Are those real?
These are empty.
These were soju bottles when I was in Korea.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I have a liter of.
We're in Korea. Was ramen there?
That's why it was a little bit, but
it was not.
Bulgogi and rice and just
yeah, Korean barbecue shit.
Yeah, I didn't eat it. I did not like any.
Yeah, there's no way you pick up a bag of ramen and it goes made in Korea. There's just I checked.
No.
I'm honestly thinking it's like Vietnamese.
I don't know. I don't eat it, so
you don't eat ramen?
No.
Wow.
I mean, I do if like my mom buys me like 30 of the packs that you can just put chicken in. Like that's the only time I'll eat it because it's so disgusting and bad for you.
So you so you guys at Merrill Lynch, I got to tell you that and you read about this in the book, but everything you've seen in The Wolf of Wall Street is true.
Yeah.
It's beyond. Yeah, it's beyond. It was, at least in the 80s. It was beyond crazy. I honestly, Hammond was, the region was a lot of drugs going on. I wanted to get away from all that stuff, and so when I went to Merrill Lynch, man, it's like all I did was go from the streets to white collar streets. It was crazy, man. It was the craziest experience.
Well, and that was actually my next question is how do you think like that your experience at Merrill Lynch compares to like most corporate structures today?
Oh, I don't think, well, I don't know, because at least the corporate structures I'm at, there, that's not going on. I mean,
right.
People smoke weed and a bunch of companies, but I don't think, back then, dude, it was nothing for people to have a plate of cocaine in their desk drawer. I mean, it was oh, dude, no, I like a tray, like a plate, like you open your desk drawer and there's like a whole thing like ready to come out to party. It's like, come on and party. There's a meeting.
That's why businesses were so good back then.
I don't know. Yeah, whatever. Or people work fast, man. So yeah, so if I was still there, I would have had this episode would have happened at 29, not 59. But I kid you not, it was crazy. I'd go into the bathroom stalls where all the traders were to take a piss in the morning. And then all of a sudden, all the traders are like, you could hear them all doing cocaine. And then they'd throw the bell was ready to ring. They'd throw the Wall Street Journal on the ground, pull their pants up, go running out, wash it. I don't think they wash their hands, do all their cocaine, and boom, jump on the trading floor. It was like the craziest thing I've ever seen. Yeah. And then at night, it was nonstop. Every single night was nonstop parties. Like at the time, I literally was the fluffer. I was the guy that they sent down to the hotel to make sure the hookers and all the booze and the cocaine was in order, and test everything for them to make sure it was okay. I mean, don't get me wrong. As a 20-year-old kid, it was sort of cool. But then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Now I'm going to school in Chicago. I'm I wanted to get away from drugs. I wanted to get my shit together. And I sort of caught myself in the middle of the fun and going, well, every day this is not fun. I called it hostage partying. I don't know if said that in the book, but I was like, I mean, back then we didn't have cell phones. So I tried having girlfriends and stuff. You couldn't call your parents. You couldn't call your girlfriend because your CEO has you locked down in a hotel for 3 days and say, oh, I can't come for dinner. I can't show up for the date. I had no way of getting a hold of people, right? It's like, take the phone off the hook. And he goes, you pick up that phone, you're fired.
Wow.
So how do you think that like constantly going lifestyle kind of prepped you for your next step in life, which was then moving to your next business?
Well, I left there and I started a company at the age of 23, had a office there on Wacker Drive, landed a contract. I was making $30 an hour, which was big money for me on my own at that time. And then I quickly jumped to $60 an hour. I just kept raising my rates, and then I was up. By the time I was 25, I was making $175 an hour, charging that for programming and stuff like that. So I was like, I just kept raising my rates because people kept asking for my work, and then I tried getting it. This is a lesson, a big lesson too. I did a lot of partnerships got into partnerships with people that were convenient. So one guy was my professor who had taught me a lot in coding and everything else. And I had these projects, he had projects, and I was just a fast coder, and he was a good coder. But he was, and then all of a sudden, this guy's going through a divorce. Next thing I know, he puts everything into my name because he's going through a divorce. And then he starts embezzling all the funds out of the bank account to do cocaine. So I'm like, fuck, I can't get away from the cocaine. There's another guy, he's on cocaine all the time. I'm just like trying to work for a living, build a company, and I'm in this situation. So then the only thing I learned is because the guy put everything in my name, after a year going through this, I sat him down and I basically gave him a check for half of all the money in the bank account, said, dude, I can't do this anymore. Here's 50% of all the money and you're fired. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah. And so I said, you could either go get your shit together or go buy a bunch of cocaine and we can maybe do projects, but you got to clean up your act. And then he wound up living in the basement of one of my clients. Like he couldn't get his shit together. So I tried to help him as best I could, but that was my first hostile takeover. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
At the age of 25.
So, but like before you went and did that, like started your next thing after Merrill Lynch, was there like a moment after you left? Yeah, just throw shit wherever you want.
Is he okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just pissed we took his camera away. But
Tyler, you can come around and poke your head in the camera every now and then too.
Tyler, use your words. I don't have words. He's like, Tyler, smash. But there was was there a moment when you left Merrill Lynch that you were like, I know exactly what I'm going to do next? Or was there a moment where you were like, what's next?
Well, the big thing was I started off in operations because I didn't have any programming skills. That's what I was going to school for. I went to Merrill Lynch. They sent me to IBM school. And it was, it was weird. I don't know. Do you remember the movie Jackson where the women were working for NASA, but they were all the colored women were the black women were all stuffed in their own space far away and in their own room across campus at NASA. They were sort of like hidden from it. Oh, Hidden Figures.
Was that Hidden Figures?
Yeah, they were the mathematicians, and I was I get chills talking about it because that's such an amazing movie. So here are these women that are the computers, right? Because before they were computers, they were that's what they called them. They're computers. The people's job title was you're a computer. So anyway, because you're computing things. And then the machine from IBM showed up, and the woman is sitting there with the giant binder, and the guys couldn't figure out, even the guys from IBM couldn't figure out how to make it to work. Well, that was me at Merrill Lynch. I'm on midnights, and there's these binders. Can you see me? They're like this big. They're like literally that big. They're big binders. And so I just read them every night after I did my homework. And I'm learning how to program, how to operate, and how all the computers work. And I'm helping Merrill Lynch bring all the exchanges online at that time. And I was just like, I was motivated to stay away from the partying, but better myself, and to get a programming degree, because the programmers were making twice as much as the operators. So if I could learn how to make the machines do what everybody wanted them to do, they made all the money. So that's when I became a coder, and I learned basic assembler language, COBOL, and I was writing code like crazy. And that's when all the shit went down, when the CEO got nailed for him. He was embezzling money, because that seems to be a theme. So he was embezzling money to do all the cocaine. And then all of a sudden, anybody that was connected to him was put on the line to, was basically set up to get fired. So that was a bad taste in my mouth. Like, literally, I got set up and backstabbed to basically get fired for not doing anything, for doing my job. It was just because I knew somebody. So even though I was like in the in club, the minute the in club was going out the door, I had to go out the door. So I was literally unemployed for a period of time there, which was pretty crazy, because I had never been unemployed in my life. I'd always been overemployed. Now I find myself unemployed. And so what I did is, while I'm going to school, I literally pulled a posting off the job board that said data entry, $6.50 an hour. And I'm like, fuck, I have to work. So I was going from making $30 an hour at Merrill Lynch, gainfully employed, couldn't get hired anywhere else because I didn't have enough experience or a degree to get hired. So I pulled that thing off the board, and I went. It was the Children's Home and Age Society in Chicago. And I sat with the president, and she goes, "You are way overqualified to do data entry." I go, "But I type faster than any fucker in this building. You have to give me this job." And I said, "But here's the deal. You have to let me write programs for free, and then you're going to become a reference for me." And then we shook on it. So I worked on programming for free, because I could code so fast that I could do all the data entry in a couple hours, where everybody else was taking all day to do it. I just typed, I put all that shit in the computer, and then I would code for free. And then Sonny, networking with a lady that would come in as a consultant, that was the big programmer consultant, making $165 an hour, which motivated me. So I'm motivated by her, and she goes, "Hey, my husband is an IBM repair guy at this company, and they need someone to write a COBOL program, payroll program." Thinking, well, I've gotten payroll checks. I don't know what a payroll program is, but I'm sure I could do that. And so I go, "Yeah, let me go check." So I go across town. It was out in Cicero, Midland Ross Corporation. I go and I interview. And next thing I know, the lady liked me. And next thing I know, I'm working. It was $30 an hour, 60 hours a week for an entire year. And that was my first customer while I was getting my programming degree. So then that sort of launched my business. And then that's where I met the nutty professor, I call him, that turned into the cocaine head that I wound up doing the hostile takeover from. So now we've come full circle. So Jackson, does that help bridge sort of the life of, but I sort of, I went out a lot, had cocktails, but I curbed myself, because I think I saw so much of that massive partying, and I just wanted to, again, get away from the bad stuff to get to the good stuff.
Well, in your book, you always talk about, or not always, but you consistently in the early stages talked about like getting out of there and leaving, or like looking to what's next. Do you, like, when did that stop, I guess is the question I'm asking, because I had that same headspace of, all right, like we have the podcast, like what's next? What can I do now to help us and just stuff like that. So I'm wondering if it stops, or how do you control it?
Well, there's a hunger, right? So there's a desire or
Yeah.
hunger that you have. So we call it a yearning in the psychology space. So you yearn to now, as long as you're not, constantly running from yourself. I went through a lot of work in psychology to determine, am I driven or am I running from myself, right? So there's a definition there of you establishing, are you moving toward a better self, a better you, or are you running away from who you are? So you need to own who you are and take yourself wherever you want to go. And so there's a whole collective soul there thing where you want to make sure that you're taking you with you and not trying to run away from yourself, because you can't. Like my dad would always say, wherever you go, there you are. So it's like, it's like, you can't get away from you. So,
Yeah.
and no, it doesn't end, because look at Jackson, what were all those titles you rattled off? Look at, I have 5 companies because I can't stop innovating. I can't stop inventing. That's who I am. So I create things. I believe, great things, but I don't just do one thing. I do, but I found ways to help motivate people, to help me, to partner, to help others while I'm growing things, and so that's who I become out of that. But I manifested that from everything you read about and everything you just heard, and that's your choice, is to make, what are you going to become based on your yearning to keep going, or to keep driving, or to keep pushing yourself to that next best you.
Well, and another thing with this yearning and or wanting what's next is dealing with the son of a bitch that is patience.
I thought you were going to say Jackson. You're like, we both have that in common.
Yeah, we both have to deal with you, but no, dealing with patience. And I'm wondering, in your career, like, when was a big moment where you just had to remind yourself that I need to be patient with this because it'll come?
Fuck, dude, I've never been patient.
Yeah.
I have. Jackson knows I'm not even patient going to this store for a thing of milk or whatever. So that was the lesson I didn't learn until I went in the hospital. I have to slow down, and I drive a little bit slower, not a lot slower, but I mean, I just I take things, and I've gone through periods of my life in that. So I've done a lot of personal development. Tony Robbins introduced Jackson on his first fire walk. What, Jackson at the age of 14 or 15?
Yeah, I actually have the pin on my jean jacket still.
Yeah. So when I took him on his first fire walk. So I've done, and again, Sonny, I think it's because I always strived or had this yearning to be better than who I was, and I wasn't always owning who I am. Right. So I was always running from myself in a lot of those moments. Like, oh, if I just go do this and walk on fire and jump off a frickin', cliff, and I do this thing and this extreme stuff, it's going to make me better and I'll become someone else. But truly, I'm just manifesting from who I am to be a better person every inch of the way. So hopefully, I don't know if that's resonating, but that's where, I think that every time we make those choices of slowing down or being patient, it's a sign, and I think it's a choice too. Because if by nature we're not comfortable slowing down and being patient, I think we have to, it's a learned behavior. We have to do it for the right reasons. And for me, every time I did that personal development, it was like, oh, they would teach you, slow down, look at the birds, and these flowers, you can watch them grow right before your eyes. And I think that was really cool. And I would do mantras and chants and things like that. And then all of a sudden I'm like, fuck, I can get back to work and make some money. And then all of a sudden I would it'd be like the minute I'd get out of those spaces, I would just almost rubber band back to that aggressive, full force, nonstop guy, and but again, that every time I became better at pulling myself back a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. But look, I didn't fully learn, because I wound up, almost killing myself building multiple companies and working too hard and playing too hard. So I had to have a wake up call, and again, my message to everybody is to don't have that wake up call, but maybe hear the words I'm saying and make one little change along the way, but don't do it alone. Do it with each other, do it with partners, do it with friends.
Do it with your team.
Your team.
That's also in the book, but you have to buy it in order to find out what it means.
Dude, you get to chapter 3 and every one of you can email me or call me because I'll talk to you about that. But chapter 3 is a huge life lesson for me about not being alone. Because Sonny, when I hear you say the words that you were saying, I felt alone when you were saying that. So I think you feel alone sometimes in that, like, it's all you got to make it happen. And
No, there's definitely times where I'm like, all right, like I need to do this or do that. And it's weird. Like reading your book, I was like, oh man, Dean and I, like, we have that in common, we have this in common, we have that in common. And I think our headspace, well, obviously yours back then, it's like somewhat familiar. So I'm probably going to fly through your book, honestly, in the next 2 days and be like, all right, let's figure this shit out.
Well, and it's all for you. One of the things I recommend is journaling, right? So, and it doesn't have to be this crazy long stuff. It could be 3 lines or 3 words. But every night before you go to bed, and you'll sleep better from this too. Just write down what's going on in your head. Like write down something you learned that's new, that helped you grow, that helped you be better. And every day is a whole life, man. It's like life is so precious. It's like people don't realize that every single day is a treasure, right? So every single day you have an adventure, and it's yours to choose whether you live into the adventure and learn from it and become better from it each and every day. So I think that shit's worth writing, and all of you guys will have books if you just start writing shit down about the things you're living through. Right now you're podcasting, which is super baller, but then there's other things, other experiences that you have that maybe if you journaled, you guys would all have books by the end of the year. So
I've tried journaling at night too, and it's just, I mean, when it comes down to it, it's just been a lack of discipline at the end of the night, because I'll write stuff and then I'll literally just get in my own head and just be like, all right, this is stupid, and like I'll just self doubt myself, and then I'll put it down and I won't pick it up.
Were you a celebration guy, or do you celebrate things at all?
No, I don't. Like my parents and my brother have gotten on to me because I'm very hard on myself, and
Right.
like if I accomplish something, it's not about like being happy about that accomplishment. It's about looking at what's next.
Well, that's not 100% true. Like you're getting better about it, at least, because like when we launched Windy City Joe's, I mean, we celebrated, like we FaceTimed and we poured a drink and we smoked some weed.
I mean, yeah, but then it was like, all right.
But then it was back to work. It
Yeah.
was right back to work. I mean, I can't, I agree with it to an extent to where, like, I don't know why. I mean, it is easy for me to, like, at the end of the day, like, sit down and just, like, shut my fucking brain off, to be like, shut up, like, and then, like, zone out. So, like, that's my me time, is, like, 2 hours at the end of the night. But other than that, like, I mean, it's like go, go, go. I can't just sit still. Like, and that's probably borderline with all the ADHD in my brain. But I mean, at the same time, it's like just focusing on all of it. You know what I mean? Like just being like, all right, this is where we got to move next. And like, how many times a day do I call you about like stupid little ideas that I have? And I'm like, what can we do with this?
Right.
So, I mean, it's like,
I can't shut up my brain, and I wish I could, because like I said, I'm always like, what am I doing next? Or it's like the Mamba mentality. It's like, I don't think about what we're doing. I think about what my competition is doing. And when that day comes, it's like, are we going to be more prepared than them to have the opportunity that's offered?
But what about if you just, one of the things that helped me, and it was one of my coaches, and Jackson knows Dr. Bob, is we would do this thing. I might get choked up here, but we do this weekend training that's called tracking, and it's really surreal. And you guys have seen The Matrix, right?
yep.
Yeah. So
You haven't?
right.
You haven't? Oh, yeah.
So you have like the blue pill and the red pill, right? So you're either You're either here in the real world or you're in this other world. And a lot of times, most of us give up that moment to be just with ourselves, be present, and just stay right fucking here. And we decide to just leave and either travel way ahead or travel way back and fester on bullshit that happened before us. And we do this every millisecond of every day. We go through these exercises that I wish you guys could experience, because you're tracking every millisecond of every moment and you catch yourself leaving this moment. And we do it all the time. Like right now, as I'm talking, you guys are reflecting on something that happened 10 years ago or something you wish would happen tomorrow. You can't help it. It's human nature. Our minds bounce all over the place, in milliseconds. And that's what drives a lot of us crazy, because we're wanting something that is not here right now. And so if we were just to take a second to just be with ourselves in the moment and enjoy the moment, that's where the treasure is. It's like being right. And then I could hear him right now. He would work with me, and he could say, stay fucking right here. Stay here right now. Come back here. I can tell you're leaving. Come back here. And it felt like in the Matrix, like I was like being pulled into the, into the universe. And I'm like, wow, I could feel like in that moment, I could feel leaving where I was with that person, and I wasn't staying with them. And it took a lot of training, and I still catch myself. And I'm like, I could feel myself, like I could see out of the corner of my eye, my text message come up, or this happened or that happened. And all of a sudden I'm leaving and I'm going off into another conversation when I should be in this conversation. And it takes every fiber of my body to stay in wherever I choose to be. And it's hard for people to do that. And especially with the disruptive world and technology that we live in, it's almost become impossible. I mean, Jackson fights with me all the time because he sees me leave our conversations, and I ask him to tell me about it, because I'm like, dude, I'm going to fucking leave right in the middle of this thing. So it's like, you got to pull me back. You got to pull me back in.
My favorite is when I like watch it happen, and then I just start saying random shit that doesn't make any sense, and you're still going, yeah, no, definitely. Like, and I'm like, fucking, I was like, I knew it. Like,
I'm so good at it, I can live in both spaces.
but I mean, I am very thankful that like there was that time, I think I'm still at least one of the youngest people to have ever gone through that program at Wright. I was 14 when I went through it, and everyone's like 30 plus. But there were some negative sides to it, because I would be like, I don't have as much like trauma.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As like some of these, like I had a guy in my group that was from like Ethiopia, and he was like telling us how he left a war-torn country and with his sister on his back. And I was like, fuck. Like sometimes my mom gets pissed when I don't turn my homework in.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I was like, I feel like that guy should go again. Like, I don't have enough to talk about, but like, that's my biggest thing is I use humor to kind of leave the space, like leave like anything that makes me uncomfortable talking about. I'm always like, if I make a joke, it goes away and it's fine and everything's okay.
I don't know where the fuck you got that.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably like literally anyone in our family.
Yeah.
Well, Dean, and like back to, I guess, like focusing on the situation. That's why if you watch, you're a fan of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, yeah?
Oh yeah. Oh, big fan.
If you watch his like workout videos, he yells "focus." And that's him yelling at himself, being like, "Get back in the moment." And I wish I could do that at the gym, but I just can't scream "focus." Everyone else would be like,
"Dude, trust me, everyone's got headphones on. Hey, everyone's got headphones on. You can grunt, you can yell." I did that the other day. I took my headphones out, and you can hear guys doing that, or people doing that stuff, and people screaming and yelling and grunting. And I'm like, do I sound like that? I don't care. I just put my headphones on, and I went back to making noises. I'm sure I don't even know. So,
right. Do you know who Jesse Itzler is?
Yeah.
His like saying is "be where your feet are." So
I like that.
That's kind of like another saying. And I mean, it's so hard to, I guess, do just that, is be where your feet are, especially, yeah, like you mentioned with all of the distractions and such. But I mean, it's also on you as a person to eliminate and put away those distractions as well.
Yeah.
But then like I keep battling back and forth. It's like, yeah, put away the distractions and get to work, but also don't overwhelm yourself with work and stress yourself out with everything too. So it's like, yeah,
Right.
you gotta find the in between.
Yeah, I would always have this thing where, I mean, I did it when I came into S2A. Everybody was just blown away at how much I did and I built in such a short period of time. But I was the guy that never stopped, and I got a lot of people to help me out with things, but my mind didn't stop, and I was in a kid in a new playground, and I had all these business initiatives, and I could see them right before my eyes, and I couldn't sleep. I would sleep 3, 4, 5 hours a night to make these things happen, and then I forgot to take care of myself fully throughout that process. And so my outlet wasn't to sleep, it was to work out as hard as I could for an hour and a half every morning in the gym, and then grind into the work, and then go celebrate where I could at a concert or a party or something like that, and then not have any downtime, which is what I think overall was sort of the tipping point that pushed me over the edge there. But I think again, I think the lesson is to just make sure you plot out some balance. Have that time of daily break, meditation. It doesn't have to be go 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 go. You're going to be much more effective if you can create a little space to breathe, create a little space to be. Just stay present, shut down your technology, and just sort of be disconnected for a while. Whether it's I mean, you're right by the lake, man. I'd be like, when I was doing that, I'd be like just walking out on the lake, no technology, no nothing, no headphones, just take in the birds chirping and take a little breather, and then go back to whatever it is that's going to drive you to the next moment. So
What was you? I think you did touch on this a little bit in the book, but what was your why for like your work ethic and starting these businesses?
Well, I think my stepmom was the driver of that. I mean, from the moment she instilled that work ethic. I mean, without going into the whole backstory, which you'll get in the book, I was abandoned at an early age from my birth mom, and so I think that abandonment and all that caused me to sort of have what you have, Sonny, where it was almost like I was running towards something because I was yearning to have a connection. I was yearning to find a mom, right, that actually cared about me. So I was always driving to find that, not knowing that that's what I was searching for. So I never wanted to be where I was at because I was never felt nurtured or comfortable where I was at. I was always driving forward. So in that, when I got to this Dutch German stepmom, all of a sudden she's like taking this wild child who was running this. When my birth mom had me, she never really watched me that close, so I was running the farm fields of Indiana. We moved to England, and I'm running the streets of London, first grade, second grade, unattended, just running with a pack of kids like Oliver Twist. So I'm just literally running Piccadilly Circus. The English bobbies would bring me home. I'm just with a pack of kids. We'd get in trouble all the time. I come here. I'm on the south side of Chicago. I move in with my grandparents because I had my dad. My dad brought us back alone without my mom. So then I'm in with my grandparents, and my grandmother had a bunch of boys, so I was just another boy running the streets of Calumet City, south side of Chicago. No supervision. Then all of a sudden, this Dutch German woman comes into my life and tries to cage the wild animal. And it's all about chores and scrubbing floors and doing dishes and weeding gardens. And I'm like, what the fuck? I got to go. And I was the worst kid for the worst amount of time that you could possibly. I was terrible. I was a beast. And so she tamed that beast. It took, several beatings, which I deserved every one of them. But I was bad, man. But she helped me get into the the first jobs, and it was because of scrubbing those floors and weeding those gardens. And my buddies would stand at the end of the driveway, or I would get your ass over here and help me weed this garden so we can go play baseball. And then she got me into organized sports and actually paid me for. I remember she used to keep this 5x7 index card and pay me a quarter a base and $1.50 a home run.
Wow.
I was the home run king in Little League for 4 consecutive years because of that. I got drafted by a travel team because of my mom's work ethic, and my dad would come home and help play catch every day. I mean, he was part of that, but I think the work ethic came from that Dutch German instilling it in. And my dad would always work. He went to night school. And then he also always had another job selling something. He was like a shoe salesman for a while, I remember. And then he was always about selling something. So I think that's where I got my sales bones. And then him and my mom had this Shackley food supplement business. And we would be like, our garage would be filled with boxes of product. And my dad was just the king. And all of a sudden, we're living in this lower middle class neighborhood. And we had new cars and they're going on trips. And we had boxes of shipments coming in and out. And all my buddies thought they were drug dealers. And I go, they're vitamin drug dealers. But I think all that business going on around me and my mom making me do chores and work really shifted me, not just being this kid surviving on the street, but now this guy that understood, if you work hard, you get money. And with money, you can have nicer things. And that got me into the restaurant and the yacht club. And hey, we just came full circle.
Look at that. And it's funny because when, the three of us will go on the road somewhere. Sonny will I put all my pills and vitamins in my hand and I'll throw them back. And he's like, what the fuck was all that? And I'll be like, that's that, this and this. And he's like, why don't you just take a multivitamin? Because we take all the Shackley vitamins that my grandparents were selling. They're all expired now, but I take them anyway. I'm just kidding.
You got fresh ones.
No, I know, because my mom sells it now, so she sells them all, all the organic vitamins through Shackley. So I mean, that's how we, got to that. But I'm
glad you bring us vitamins.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm malnourished.
Well, once they start working for me, I'll let you guys know. Once I'm like, wow, I really do. Well, there is
Jackson, usually you usually shove them in a McDouble, don't you? You put them right in the middle, and then you eat the McDouble, and it's sort of that's his balance, I think.
I shove them in a McGangbang because you need the chicken and the beef to basically balance it out.
With the fried beef.
You can't take it on an empty stomach.
I'm so down to get McDonald's later.
I know. I'm so hungry.
Hey, Sonny, I was counting on you to be the healthy influence.
No, dude. No, he just beats the fuck out of himself in the gym every day.
Yeah.
If anything,
pizzas, baby.
Tyler and I probably eat healthier than he does, but we don't work out.
The gym.
That's the thing.
If I could better anything, my diet is not the greatest. Every now and then I'll get on good tangents, but I'm not the best.
But Sonny, I'm deputizing you to be the healthologist for this crew, okay?
I mean, I am more than happy to work out with them. Yeah, work out with them, show them anything. I would MTI instruct them so happily.
But
come on, Joe Rogan goes on power walks with his crew and they write scripts and stuff. You guys could do that.
That is a good idea.
That's true.
Well, we were taking a lot of walks together for a little while.
Yeah, that's how you saw Homo Andy or whoever it was, right? Or whatever the guy was.
Oh yeah. Hobo Steve.
Hobo Steve. I was close.
Yeah. Well, and then there was definitely. Yeah, we were going on a lot of them for a while, but no, I'm definitely getting hungry. I will tell you that. Now that I'm thinking about McDonald's.
We should have been talking about salads because that makes everybody hungry.
Oh, man, I am full. I'm actually stuffed now. So going forward a little bit, I want to skip a little bit of stuff. I mean, you started Forward Progress and Social Jack down the line. And that was,
after about seven failed and 5 successful companies in between
Yeah.
all that. So.
And then we kind of touched on all of it. Now you're, at S2A and all their subsidiaries and companies like that. I want to talk about time travel though, because I know that's something that you love. So if you could time travel anywhere in time, where would you go?
Well, I would go in the past because there's some people I would like to beat the shit out of that bullied me. So I'd probably take care of them now that I'm a 3rd-degree black belt martial artist. I'd probably open up a can of whoop ass on some of them. I wouldn't like kill them or anything. I just make them hurt.
You just go back to when they're like 12 and you're like, I'm a grown ass man now.
You know that kid you just beat up? Yeah, that's me. Bitch. So, but no, it sounds crazy, but I was always into like, the dinosaurs and sort of the Jurassic period and things like that. So I think I'd want to check that out at, some sort of safety factors, hopefully engaged there. But I'm also curious about the future and not just time travel, but I do believe there's a multiverse and different dimensions that live around us. I mean, I don't think there's coincidences, and I have a hard time believing that we're the most intelligent thing around. So I would be curious to meet and know people that just have figured things out beyond us. So it wouldn't just be time travel. I think it would be space travel. So I'm fascinated by Jackson. You and I were talking about the black holes and things like that, and I just
ancient aliens.
Yeah, and ancient aliens, and I do believe in a lot of that because I can't imagine that a lot of these things were done with that we know about and have today that were actually done by just regular old humans. So anyway, I know there's intelligent life beyond us. There has to be. And we've actually seen it together, Jackson, in our backyard.
Yeah, we saw that UFO when we were in the pool.
Right.
But I think going back to what you said about the multiverse, that when you feel that sensation of deja vu, I don't know all the time that it's like, oh, I actually did this and that's why it feels familiar, or if it's like some version of me in some version of this universe did something that was similar to what I'm experiencing right now, and that's like connected, like it's all connected. It's like, and I think, and I didn't come to that conclusion until I watched the movie Interstellar, which you and I ended up finishing it, right? Yeah, great fucking movie.
I've seen the ending of that movie because it came out when I was working in theater, so I'd always walk in the past 5 minutes.
Oh, and you're like, I get the gist.
Yeah.
But you think about how time sort of is in a loop or a curve, and there's all kinds of different ways to slice and dice things, right? Just like anything. And you think about matter, and we're just balls of energy running around, and you just think about how everything is connected. And that's one of those things that takes you back to some of the work that we did in the psychology, even in martial arts, where you could feel the energy travel between humans. Well, if that energy can transfer, if we could have that transference of energy between us and feel that connection, how when you're with somebody you just feel good and you feel connected to that person. We've all had that. And so when you have that feeling and that connection, why couldn't you transmit that? Why couldn't you receive that by choice more? I mean, what percentage, where's my fact checker? What percentage of our brain do we use?
Tyler.
It's like 10.
No, that's a Hollywood trope though. Yeah, that's just we use 100% of our brain.
No, we don't.
But they're
100. I'd be so much better off.
I'm gonna be so pissed if we're using 100% of our brain.
Oh, it actually says, over the course of an average day, humans use nearly 100% of their brain.
Yeah, but not. But there's so many regions that are untapped, right? So there's energy that we have that we don't transmit or receive. So what I'm saying is if we could combine that energy that we have, and remember when I was Sonny, when I was talking about the tracking, and I was talking about being present and how we travel all day long and we don't realize that we're traveling, that we're not in the present. We're literally time traveling all day long. So why do we choose to do that, just in our heads? Is there a way for us to manifest that and physically be able to take the matter that's in our, that we're made of, with the energy in our bodies, and then transform that and then transmit it somewhere? And I can't imagine that that's not possible.
Well, and that's like one of the big rumors as to why psychedelics are illegal is because the big mushroom man, I don't know his name, on Joe Rogan, is like, that's part of why the government doesn't want you to have psychedelics. It's because it can lead you into the multiverse and those kind of, I guess, thoughts / viewpoints.
Well, and why, if the human mind is much more powerful than what we use it for, why couldn't we go to that extra space that we don't use?
Yeah.
Do you think Elon Musk is an alien?
No, I don't think he's an alien. I think he's a genius. But no, I think he is autistic, right? I mean, isn't that?
Yeah.
He's diagnosed. So I just think he's genius. But I know a lot of people like that, and so I think we all have the ability to be a genius without being autistic. And again, it's a choice of us living into that part of ourselves to manifest that. So, like, for instance, we can choose every single day to learn things, to absorb things, to be better, and then to initiate that, to propel ourselves the next day, to push ourselves to the next level. Is that a version of time travel where if we decide to just sit on the couch and eat Cheetos every day, and then that's a different version of ourselves? And now all of a sudden we've had this experience where all of a sudden we've decided, well, I'm going to learn a new skill every day. And then by the end of this period of time, I'm going to, I'm going to be a professor at a university, or I'm going to write a book, or I'm going to change lives because I'm going to be this person. Now you have two choices. You could be that person eating Cheetos on the couch, or you could be the person on the right that went ahead and changed a whole bunch of lives and changed the world. And so I think that's a version of us time traveling within ourselves. And then, Jackson, is that a multiverse where there's one version that's eating Cheetos and one version that
looks like The Rock?
Yeah, that looks like The Rock, right?
Yeah, that would probably be the multiverse. Yeah, because then you'd have the variations, kind of like like Loki when we watched Loki. Yeah. It's like you got the different versions of each person throughout the timeline, and that's where it splits off.
Yeah, so I think I'm like Fox Mulder in what do you call it, in X-Files. I think I want to believe, I do believe that there's higher intelligence, there's science that we all don't know that's going on, that exists. I mean, look, all of a sudden we went to no space travel to everybody's flying around. And I mean, William Shatner, Captain Kirk is flying in space at the age of 90, for God's sakes. I mean, it's he just went up in the atmosphere and back, but still, I think that's freaking awesome. So now all of a sudden, I think there's possibilities for us to explore far enough out to know that we can travel from Earth to other galaxies, to other universes. And I believe, CERN and some of the other groups that are out there that everybody hates, but I think they're in advanced sciences that they're learning about those things. And I think there's capabilities, but who knows? Maybe Elon came through the portal in CERN. We don't know that. We don't know.
He's like, damn, y'all haven't done shit here. We'll be to Mars in 3 weeks.
Watch, I'm going to get this Dogecoin going, and these idiots don't know it's nothing. They're just going to do it because I said so.
Well, that's another thing is actually I just got these guys on Sheeb, which has the Sheeb Army.
Pronounce it.
Yeah. Shiba Inu, it's like the dog.
Yeah, sure.
What, you don't know about the dog, Shiba Inu?
I don't know what the hell that is.
Dude, it just hit 8. Sheeb just hit 8. So.
Hell yeah, we're gonna buy Blarney Stone.
Yeah, we keep saying we're gonna, because Blarney Stone went out of business. One of our favorite bars.
It did.
And we,
for obvious reasons.
yeah, for very obvious reasons. If you've ever been to Blarney Zone, you know, you get it. We don't have to explain it to you. But she went up to 8, and it's still climbing. But you can buy it now, and the more you buy, the more
We're sponsored.
we're sponsored. Yeah. So you want to support us? Go buy Sheep.
There you go. And I officially own 140. Just in this wallet, I own 142 million shares. So if it goes to $1, I'm gonna buy y'all a boat or something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have our own yacht club. Damn it.
We do appreciate that. Yeah, we'll all get together in Lake Michigan. We'll hook them together.
I'll just be a bigger sponsor of the show. So.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, we can record on
It's
both.
our own network channel.
Yeah, right.
People are forced to watch us.
Yeah,
Forced to watch. There you go.
yeah, we're gonna buy out Fox News and CNN and stream our.
Yeah,
all of
we're
our
the
stuff.
new news.
Am I just noticing because I listen to you guys a lot? But have you always had those lights up around the?
Yeah. So no. Well, I mean, for the past few episodes, at least.
I would say like every episode minus like the first 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think I
No,
watched the first 2 and I just listened to the rest. So.
Yeah, because you always do it when you're at the gym. Because he'll come back from the gym when I'm back home, and he'll be like,
See, they look cooler with the lights off though.
Oh, there you go.
"Yeah,
Yeah, I like
so,
that.
yeah, there's lights all over this place."
There is.
So
We're in a UFO of our own.
yeah, it kind of feels like a spaceship in here.
Or a boat, depends on how many mushrooms. So.
Jackson, you should get some of the crypto guys that we know on, and then in the back on that TV, you just run a stock ticker on crypto.
Oh yeah, we could.
Like,
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, and we just stick to this one camera angle.
Yeah. I
do-
mean, I like this angle.
Yeah, I'm not hating it. I just need to lose weight. That's all it makes me realize.
Well, then you
Oh,
can't.
okay. There's all motivation in every
Yeah.
second of the day, right?
Well, Jackson and I are both doing Sober November.
Yeah.
Well, until Thanksgiving, because I mean, like, you can't be American and not drink and watch football on Thanksgiving.
And you can't not drink and spend time with your family.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, I think that's more what it has to do with.
That too. Yeah, it's a great part of
We call it
Thanksgiving.
a tolerance cocktail. So
Yeah, I'm gonna have 12. So I want to thank you again for coming on, and I know you're super busy. We had to book this like a month out,
yeah,
and you're my dad.
Thank you for getting healthy to come on.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're doing okay as well, Dean.
Yeah, and please, and so again, Sonny, I'm appointing you as the reverend here of health, the healthologist for the team too. So,
Oh boy.
where can people find you? I mean, I know it, but I want you to.
right here,
say
I'm on the screen.
Oh yeah. So is at Dean DeLisle on everything except for Instagram, which is at Dean DeLisle 1.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Please connect to me on social, and I am super busy. I always try to help people out as much as I can. Let me know if you like the book. Please, it's on Amazon. Just write a positive review, and if you don't like it, contact me because I don't want a negative review. So. And you 3 guys got to leave me a positive review. I think Jackson might have already done
yeah, I did. That's the only reason I have my own Amazon account.
that. Right.
Other than that, I share your guys's.
Well, I'm a sponsor there too. I see.
Well, no. It's my card. I just,
okay.
I just use your Prime shipping. Come on.
All
right.
Well,
Well-
I appreciate what you guys are doing. I love your content. I love the show. I think more people should listen in, and I wish you guys, of course, all the success. Not just because Jackson's my son, but I like you 3 together, and hopefully you guys do a bunch of stuff together. So.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Dean.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna make my way to Indiana and have a therapy session with you because it's insane at the same childhood things that we've gone through. So we're gonna just dissect that.
Well,
and figure
Jackson,
it
we're
out.
having a final shutdown of Camp DeLisle. I think it's next weekend, so maybe that's the weekend that everybody gets together, and
Done.
we'll throw some sports on the TV in the backyard and light up a fire and.
There goes Sober November.
Oh shit!
We could get our duels.
Yeah, right.
No way. I'm not drinking a duel.
Does that work in a funnel?
Yeah, it goes down the same. I mean, not down my throat.
All right,
Uh,
maybe.
We'll have to figure it out.
Well, I would only be free that Sunday, so
All right. Well, we'll
But
put
I mean-
we'll put a football game on, and we'll just hang out, and we'll talk up some things. And I was hoping we could empty the fridge and the bar. I mean, I'm not going to do it. I just need help. We could either empty it and move it in the garage, or we could just empty it in our system. So there's a choice there.
maybe like we'll make an exception for
Just
one day.
one day.
One day.
All
Well,
right.
even if like you're Catholic and you do that thing where you give things up, can't you do it on Friday?
It's Lent.
Yeah.
But don't you get a free day or something?
No. You got
Oh.
the one day you can't eat meat. Is
Sundays.
Friday.
Oh, okay.
Oh, was it Fridays?
Fridays you can't eat meat.
Yeah, because they have
You
Fish
can't eat meat.
Friday. Yeah, they have Fish Friday.
I
Even
went
when
to-
I was a Catholic for 20 years, but
Yeah, I went to Catholic school, and
so did I.
um,
They beat the whole system right out of me.
amen to that.
just right out of your knuckles. All right. Well, thank you again so much for coming on, and I'll talk to you after this.
Thank
as
you,
well,
Dean.
but-
You're the man.
Thank you.
All right,
Dean.
guys. Love you guys. Keep doing a great job. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Love you too.
Love you too.